The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbits, and I got a special guest who's joining me this week. This guy just learned how to ride his bike with no hands. His name is Mike Roth.
I hear you're trying to replace me.
Yeah, we made an effort last week.
So I've been upping my skills, and I've been riding around on my bike with no hands.
Yeah, just eating a sandwich.
No, I just take off my hands.
Oh!
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
So, my back in the He-Man days, I thought that was pretty cool to just and put on little gadgets, but I just wear my hands most of the time, except for recently.
The things you learn when you're gone for a week.
Well, that's what I've been practicing.
This is pretty amazing. Well, welcome back, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be back.
I'm glad to have you. There's one guy who's not glad you're back, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, he looked like he liked it.
He was getting really comfortable.
Yeah.
So this week, we have no streaming spotlight. We have several movies on the marquee, though, so why don't we go ahead and get started with those. And the first one I have for us is a film from director Andrea Berloff. It stars Melissa McCarthy as a lady named Kathy. It is a movie called The Kitchen. The Kitchen is, I did not know this, based on a DC comic.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, it is set in Hell's Kitchen, 1970s, where the Irish kind of run things. The Irish mob kind of runs things. 3 guys get sent away to prison, and their wives are left to fend for themselves. The guys who still run the Irish mob, the guys who are still there, are pretty combative towards these housewives that are left behind, and kind of combative towards helping them in any meaningful way. Like, here's a few bucks, blah, blah, be happy you got that. So these ladies take it on themselves to start moving in on their racket and start collecting from local businesses for protection, and kind of start undercutting the guys who have been running the area, the Hell's Kitchen area, for all these years. This doesn't go over well. The Irish mob, the gentlemen, they don't like these ladies coming in like they run the place, and they start to go to war with each other. We have, as I mentioned, Melissa McCarthy is kind of the lead of this group, Kathy Brennan. Also, we have Tiffany Haddish as Ruby, and Elizabeth Moss as Claire. These are kind of our 3 main ladies. Elizabeth Moss' character of Claire is really interesting. She has kind of the most to do in this movie. She's a battered housewife. She does not want her husband to come out of jail. While he's gone, she reunites with a guy played by Domhnall Gleeson, who's an assassin of types. Like, has worked as an assassin for them before.
Okay.
And he just moves into the house, and they become a team. He teaches her how to become an assassin, and she's very cold-blooded.
Yeah.
She picks up things very quickly, like how to, cut a body up and get rid of it. She's got an interesting take. Tiffany Haddish's character has some interesting moments, and it's intriguing. It's 1970s Hell's Kitchen. It's all Irish, and she's a black woman married to a white Irish guy in this neighborhood.
Okay.
Her stepmother hates her and is just an evil person, and her stepmother is kind of like a Ma Barker, like, kind of runs things.
Okay.
And so there's, like, some interesting dynamics. The problem is, like, this movie's an hour and 42 minutes long, and there should be some character development in an hour and 42, and there's very little. Like, most of these characters are pretty hollow outside of Elizabeth Moss.
Now, most of the actors for this movie are known for their comic chops.
Yeah, right.
Is there comedy in this?
I mean, very little bit.
Okay.
And Tiffany Haddish was actually, I liked her in this, her first non-comedic role.
Okay.
I liked Elizabeth Moss. I think Melissa McCarthy was horribly miscast in this movie.
Okay.
I did not buy her in this role in the least. And we've seen her be serious last year. She was really good.
Yeah, but she's still doing what she does best. Even when she was serious, no one denies that is Melissa McCarthy, McCartney role.
Yeah, her character just didn't have a lot to do. Tiffany Haddish, I liked her in this role, But her character, in 2 points in the movie, made a real like left turn as a character. It was never explained why, and it was never followed up afterwards. We also have Common in this movie, right? Common's a great actor. He's just kind of in the background. He's a detective who's been he's the guy who busted the husbands. And he's also kind of watching them as they rise up as this empire.
Okay.
And he doesn't have a whole lot to do. That's about it. I described his entire character.
He doesn't do anything?
He's part of this swerve with Tiffany Haddish's character, and then it's never revisited. Like, oh, okay. And so it has some interesting pieces that you've seen in better movies. You know, you watch it and be like, oh, that's from Donnie Brasco. Oh, that's a Scarface thing, you know. And the music is like, oh, they're trying to do like what Scorsese does with his mobster movies.
Yeah.
But it's a really tepid version of all of these things put together. Like, it just never quite did anything, and the characters and the motivations are kind of a mess.
Curious on the comic book series. I mean, this is the first I've heard that was
Yeah,
a
I don't
comic
know.
book. This doesn't feel like something DC would do. Maybe one of their other companies, but
Well, it's through Vertigo, which is a
Okay.
DC company.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think with a more convincing lead than Melissa McCarthy, and kind of, it still lacked a good script, I think.
Okay.
But, you know, it's just another DC can't get,
And
get
just
the
recently,
thing right.
we have had a movie just like this with
Widows was a
Liam,
way
yeah.
better version of this,
Yeah.
and also featured a black lady married to a white Irish guy.
No, it's a thing. Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Maybe they were copying this.
Yeah, that was a way better version of this movie. I end up giving The Kitchen 2 out of 5 stars.
Oh.
Wasn't great. It was not good.
Oh, let's go on a roll with not great movies.
Let's do it. What do you have for us?
Well, I'm sorry. That's spoiler alert. You didn't hear last thing I said.
Oh, okay.
So I have The Art of Racing in the Rain, and this is another one of those talking dog movies. The dog Enzo, voice cast by Kevin Costner, he narrates a very tragic story. His owner picks him up. Well, I'm just going to start it off.
Okay.
The movie starts with Enzo lying on the kitchen floor in the dark, and he's lying in his own urine. And you could tell that his time is coming. And that is the popular thing in almost all dog movies,
seen
is
this a
you
lot.
got to kill the dog.
Oh, man.
And it
Marley and me started this trend.
It's terrible, and it's been going on way too long. I do not like dead dog movies.
Yes.
I get stuck with them. Thanks,
Thank
Rabbit.
you.
But so as he's lying there in his own filth, he reminisces about his entire life, about his owner, Danny Swift, played by Emilio
Ventimiglia or whatever.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got a name.
He picks him up as a puppy, and how they bond over race cars, because
Okay.
this is his favorite thing in the world is Formula racing. It's most. I don't know. I didn't think that was a dog thing, but the dog absolutely loves
Totally
it.
is.
Denny
You see
Swift-
Air Bud when he was a race car driver?
Well, yeah, but I know dogs love being in cars. But either way, he falls in love with racing, even watches it on TV.
Oh,
A
boy.
lot of this movie has to deal with tragedy, the narrative of the dog.
This trailer looks
and
really dark.
racing. It is a dark
There's a lot of
movie.
ambulances.
And Danny falls in love with Eve, who is played by Amanda Seyfried.
Oh, boy.
And then after that, one tragedy after another. There's cancer involved. There's displaced
Good
children.
grief.
The dog ends up getting hit by a car. It's just never a good story. You deal with all this tragedy of a kind of a very sub-rate plot, just because Kevin Costner actually does a fantastic job
Oh, I have no
narrating
doubt
the
about
dog.
that.
Some of the things that the dog says actually are really deep, very poetic. A lot of it is mixed in with racing metaphors and motoring metaphors, but listening to the dog was actually really pleasant. Unfortunately, the story itself is just a miserable trudge of tragedy and
this
pain,
is-
and you're just supposed to sit there and go, "Oh, the dog said something funny every once in a while," and
That's a horrible image to be stuck
it's
on.
a horrible image. I really wish they stopped making these dead dog movies. The director is Simon Curtis, and it's written by it's actually a novel by Garth Stein. So if you are interested in reading about dead dogs, maybe pick up the book and you might enjoy it.
Go to your local Walden Books and get it.
I would like to meet the person who has every single one of these dog movies on Blu-ray.
That's a dark person.
I just don't get it. But out of all these movies about dogs and their narratives, I think as a narrative for the dog, this is the best. Kevin Costner, he did a great job.
Now, you've given previous dead dog movies like 1 star.
Yeah. This one, I gave a better score. I give it a 2-star, mainly because I really like Kevin Costner's voice acting. I thought his lines were written very well. The rest of the movie, not. It's not fun. It's not a
2-star movie.
So if you like crying, go ahead. See it.
Oh, boy. So the next movie we have on the marquee is a movie for, it's the family movie of the week.
Yeah.
And it is Dora and the Lost City of Gold, based on the animated children's series of the early 2000s and such. Most kids had a moment with Dora growing up. From director James Bobbin, who is really good at these types of comedies. He did the 2 most recent Muppet movies. He also directed Flight of the Conchords series. And this opens, I love the way this movie opens with a young Dora, as we know her in the series. And immediately she breaks the 4th wall, because if you watch Dora, she's constantly talking to the kids. Like, hey, can you say this? And then she sits and stares and blinks, and the kids are supposed to be talking back to the TV. And so she does this at the dinner table, and her parents, played by Ava Longoria and Michael Pena. Michael Pena is like, wait, who are you talking to? I love that it's addressed immediately. Like, who are you looking at? Like, okay, I'm on this. And then we cut to the teenage version of her then, about 10 years later, and she is then played by Isabella Moner, and she is being sent to the big city to go to school with her cousin Diego, who is played by Jeff Wahlberg. And her parents are adventure seekers in the jungle. They want her to go learn a little bit more than just jungle life while they go off on an adventure. And it's the classic fish out of water story. It reminded me a lot of the character of Caddy in Mean Girls, who's, comes from Africa, and all of a sudden she's thrown into high school and, fish out of water. She doesn't know about anything cool. She embarrasses Diego because, she's just so earnest. And then her parents go missing, searching for the lost city of gold, and she and her outcast classmates end up in the jungle searching for them with the help of a man named Alejandro, played by Eugenio Derbez, who I'm a sucker for. I like him. Even in that horrible Overboard movie, I still like him.
What about that one where he plays
the Latin lover?
Yeah.
I like him as a guy. I think he's funny. But it turns into a bit of a little Tomb Raider film here for a younger generation. And we got Dora doing her thing, and we got Swiper shows up. If you watch Dora, Swiper no swiping,
which is voice acted by Benicio del Toro,
That's
which is just
get.
amazing. They spend so much money on just a handful of lines.
Benicio del Toro. And it's just, it's fun adventure ensues. And
there's one little thing that made me kind of hesitant about going to this movie in the first place. I mean, I have to see these, but PBS programming, I really enjoy their message. And they want to bring back some of the overstimulus. It's educational. And in a way, I was thinking maybe if they did a Dora movie, it would be kind of like Follow That Bird or Barney movie. Of course, those aren't my favorite movies, but I enjoy the integrity. And when I saw Dora coming out, I was thinking, oh my gosh, they are kind of ruining what was
really
a good
Hollywooded
thing.
It up.
Yeah, they Hollywooded up, and they're going to cheapen the experience. But the humor in this, I thought, was really good. I mean, besides 3 BM jokes that they had to throw in, which, it's kind of par for a lot of the Hollywood children movies, I thought it was really funny. It reminded me a lot of the Brady Bunch movie.
Sure.
You take that thing that everybody loved. Dora was your friend when you were watching it as a kid, but those were our kids that watched it.
Yeah.
Now that they're older and they could watch this, and they're like, oh yeah, that was a little weird that she would talk to us through the TV.
Right.
That is not normal behavior. But at the same time, they also throw in about a bunch of absurd things like, Swiper. That's a really absurd thing, but for some reason that one's okay. But I thought that was hilarious. I really did. And I love the energy Isabella had in this.
She was great.
She was
perfect.
fantastic.
The kid who played Diego was kind of meh.
Yeah.
Like, I like Diego as the show, and the kid who played Diego was kind of too cool for school for the most part. But I was really surprised.
Yeah.
I went in like, my kids kind of dodged between those shows growing up. I watched enough to know who these characters are, what they do, but it wasn't like one of their things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm on the periphery of this Dora thing. But I thought they did a great job. And no doubt, because like I said, this director did these Muppet movies. And that's the similar ground that you have to navigate of. We have to have something for kids, we have to have something for adults. We have to bring it all together. It's a family movie, but there's something for everybody in it. And I think he nailed it with this. This movie is way better than it deserved to be.
Yeah, the quality.
This should have been just a kind of a dumb movie, but it's a fun adventure flick.
The quality of the humor in this really made the movie. If it wasn't for that humor, and also Elizabeth's presence, this could have been a really bad movie. But
and I think they did a great job of casting, like getting Michael Pena in there.
Oh yeah,
that's brilliant because that guy is just funny. He can't help but be funny in little moments. He doesn't have a lot to do. And
that one scene I think they had in a trailer where he's doing the techno music. And I have a feeling they're just like, all right, do techno music. Don't stop until
we're
say
just going to keep rolling.
And he's just...
I loved it. I was cracking up. And this could have been tacky, but they played it really perfectly for the subject matter.
Yeah.
And the other thing, walking out of this movie that I started to think about, because I was like, wow, this is a good movie. Like, this is legit good. And not like, oh, good considering, this. Like, no, it was enjoyable, and I'm recommending it to people. But it's also really important there's a very specific segment of the audience that seeing a character like this, a hero like this on the big screen, and not played off as corny or anything like that, but seeing this young Latino girl being an adventurous hero, I think is really important.
I kind of like the whole treasure hunter explorer thing that they had going on. I thought that was pretty cute.
I am very pleasantly surprised by this movie. What did you end up giving Dora?
Me too. I gave it a 3.5, which is way higher than I thought I was going to do.
100%. Like, I was interested in this movie, but I walked out of it, and I'm immediately on Twitter like, hey, guys, go see this movie. I mean, poo-poo it all you want, but go see it first, you know? And I gave it the same score. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars.
I'm waiting for that Dead Dog movie that I just absolutely love.
Anyway, I'm sorry for sending you out of these Dead Dog movies. So the last movie we have on the marquee this week, sir, what do you have for us?
Oh, this is one I've been looking forward to a long time. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, directed by Andre Overdell. This is based on the short stories for children written by Alvin Schwartz. These are fantastic. It's like a small book with like 26 short stories that were creepy and had some great illustrations. They're doing the Goosebumps thing, where they're not really telling the short stories, but it's more of a presence in an overall movie, which actually plays a lot like the Goosebump movie. In this
like, hey, remember this character, right?
Yeah. In this movie, we have a book that was owned by Sarah Bellows, who was an albino woman who was kind of the shame of the family, and she was forced to be locked up in the basement, and children would knock on the wall and hear Sarah Bellows' scary stories. Well, something happened to the whole family, and they ended up disappearing after Sarah Bellows' death, who was accused of killing these children, poisoning them, and the house becomes abandoned. Few friends, they go in there after a confrontation, trying to run away from a bully, and they come across Sarah Bellows' digs and steal a book, which ends up writing itself. That's when it kind of becomes a Final Destination type plot, where one by one, everybody who was in the house gets cursed with one of the scary stories that was from the book. The imagery of this movie was fantastic. I think when it came down to the monsters and the scenes and everything was fantastic. But there's a little bit of weird things that made me kind of not like this movie as much as I was hoping I would. There's a tie-in with the election. This takes place in 1968, and they keep on mentioning the election with Nixon and Vietnam War, and really, as much as they mentioned it, I didn't think it really had much to do with the movie at all.
It was just to set the period, but
I felt like they mentioned it way
they did.
too much for
They
just
did.
setting a period.
Yeah, now we're going to election results. Hey, how's Wallace doing in the election? Who cares?
Yeah, and there was television of programming and stuff like that. And I felt like they were trying to say something about the Vietnam War, but then they kind of dropped the ball a little bit later on. And anyway, saying something about the Vietnam War feels way too late. I mean, that was really popular in the 80s
We get some hot
and 90s.
takes on the Vietnam
but
War.
it's now 2020, and, you know, it's...
I went into this very excited because I like this book series. Guillermo del Toro wrote the screenplay. All right, I'm in.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a passion project for him. He'd been wanting to do this.
Yeah.
Was originally slated to direct it, pulled himself back from it, but and I forgot that this is a PG-13 scary movie. Like, okay, this I have to lower some expectations for this.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like really tame in its scares. I brought my 13-year-old son, perfect audience for this. He was like, didn't scare me at all. He's like, this was Happy Death Day type of scary.
Yeah.
You know, Goosebumps is a perfect analogy. I hadn't thought about that, but it's really one for one, apples and apples, I think, with that and Goosebumps. And I love the design of the characters.
Yeah.
And there were some legitimate some moments in here. But I thought that the story that tied the story with the kids, the teenagers that tied everything together, was just kind of cookie cutter and lame.
The acting really wasn't that
It wasn't
great.
great. It's like, okay, well, we have the bully. Like, this is all stereotypical. I've seen this in most of these movies. Is kind of the same thing. And it's tough to match the scares that were in my head as a younger person reading these.
Yeah.
It's tough to project that on.
And also having this movie almost be just the same as Goosebumps, which we had just a couple of years ago.
Yep.
It made me feel a little flat. I was really hoping that they would concentrate on the scary stories, make it like Trick or Treat, where
like an anthology.
Yeah, you have a bunch of
what I was
things, and you could have
expecting.
tied it in with one really loose plot, just like they did with Trick or Treat or a lot of these Stephen King
And that's
movies.
what I was hoping for was, okay, give me an anthology of these stories instead of making the characters just kind of loosely in this somehow.
And because they didn't have the actual stories in there, these monsters, they felt watered down. Like there was a hospital scene. That creature was pretty creepy, but there was really nothing to lead up to why this was happening.
Exactly.
So, I mean, why do I care?
Character shows up, character goes away.
Yep.
Okay.
And, yeah. So that I was disappointed with, but I still, as the look of the movie, I enjoyed it, and it entertained me. I just, by the end of the movie, I was feeling pretty let down.
Yep, I agree. What did you end up giving Scary Stories?
I gave it a 3, and a lot of it is the imagery.
Yep.
I like horror movies. I wanted this to be a lot better.
I'm right on board with you, and like I said, I brought my 13-year-old, and he was kind of let down by it. He was bummed out. He was really excited for this movie. He'd been asking me for weeks, like, when's it coming out, when's it coming out? And when he walked out and was like, it was okay. I was like, okay, I'm not alone. You're the target audience. I have nostalgia of like, oh, I remember reading this when I was young.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's okay. And so I gave it 3 out of 5 for the exact same reasons you just mentioned.
Yeah. And sorry to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I did like it. I just...
Yeah. It happens.
I mean, it's crazy how we'll have like a 3 movie and we'll be like, it's really good, blah, 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 blah. And then this one we're just
expectations come into play.
Yeah.
All right, sir. It is time for Camp Throwback, and this is our final day at camp. This is it.
No,
We've had a summer.
Summer's over.
A summer of fun at Camp Throwback. It's time to pack our bags, say goodbye to your summer fling, do all those things. Make sure you got all your stuff. It's time to go home, man. School's about to start.
I never bring all my stuff.
Summer camp is over. And for our final film this week for Camp Throwback, we have 1983's Sleepaway Camp, which stars a young girl named Angela Baker. She's the character. She's a shy and traumatized girl who is sent away to summer camp with her cousin. Her aunt sends her away to Camp Arawak. And her family, we see in the very beginning of the movie, is killed in a horrific, if terribly acted, boating accident that opens the movie. While she's at camp pretty soon, all the scumbags and mean people at camp that are, just make her life miserable, start to get their violent comeuppance.
Yeah. All these people are the people who die in slasher
Right,
films.
and it's all first-person people are getting killed. Who's the
Yeah.
killer? I don't know. Who's doing it? That's the whole thing. All I remembered from this movie was the ending.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic final
Same here.
minute and a half, basically. This movie is incredibly cheesy. This movie is a B movie at best.
It is a cult classic.
Yes.
And not because, all cult classics seem to be for the really bad acting. This is bad acting after bad acting. But for some reason, you are just attached to it. You can't look away.
Can't look away. Can't look away.
And then at the end, you're like, wow, that was a real creepy scene. But the rest of the movie, you're just watching it for the terribleness of it.
I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I was like, I forgot how just cheesy everything leading up to that ending was.
Yep.
That ending will stick with you, though.
I actually forgot what the ending was, and it wasn't until the last 10 minutes. I'm like, I recognize all this stuff now.
I know where this is going. So as we wrap up our summer camp series, Mike, we've done a bunch of movies. I want to know, what's your favorite camp film that we did on this series? We had Friday the 13th, Wet Hot American Summer, Parent Trap, Meatballs, Ernest.
Yeah, that's definitely not
Adam's Family Values.
I want to say it's Sleepaway Camp, just because it is campiest camp out of all our camp stories.
One of the things that I enjoyed while we were doing this series was kind of finding trends. And a lot of these camp movies had like the regular kids versus the rich kids camp, right?
Yeah.
We got to have some sort of an athletic competition. That's a common theme throughout these. Overbearing camp directors. More than anything, I think in every one of the movies we did, horny camp counselors, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's like the main theme in camp movies is we got to have horny teenage counselors.
Except for, and thank God, Ernest Goes to Camp.
Well, he might have been. Maybe no reciprocation on that.
No.
So that was fun, man. We had fun with our camp series. We have another series we're going to kick around in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it was fun. I can finally get the zinc off my nose because camp is over.
I have all the addresses of all my friends that I'll never write.
Aww.
Yes.
All right, let's take a look ahead, sir. What is coming soon on August 21st? We have a movie that I know you're looking forward to. It's called Ready or Not. I just call it the hide-and-seek movie.
I am so looking forward to it.
Yeah?
Yep, now that Scary Stories is done, this is my next movie I really love to see.
Couldn't disappoint. I like when expectations are high. And then a couple days later, August 23rd, we have a film called Angel Has Fallen. This is another in the White House Down, or Olympus Has Fallen.
Oh, Lord, make it stop.
Yeah, Gerard Butler going to save the day again.
We're going to do it again.
Noted American hero, Gerard Butler.
This is going to be in the movie that gets above a 2.5, right?
Okay. And we also have the new faith-based movie, Overcomer. Looks like a movie. It looks like something.
Looks like it's all the same.
Before we leave you, though, of course, we have to thank our sponsor, The Palace here in Sun Prairie. Marcus Cinemas, thank you for sponsoring our program. We always appreciate it. If you want to see some great things about Marcus Cinemas, go onto our YouTube channel, Real Reviews K-Sun, and go back a couple of weeks, and you can see we had Tom, the general manager of The Palace, on. We got to talk about all the things they have going on.
I had more hot Cheetos popcorn last night. Oh, that stuff is so addictive.
That stuff quite a bit. Next week, we are going to be talking about movies like 47 Meters Down, Uncaged.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. We have Where'd You Go, Bernadette? Blinded by the Light. Good Boys. Angry Birds 2. We might be launching a new series to replace our camp throwback. Who knows? Sounds like a real fun week, though.
Okay.
That 47 Meters Down gives me no hope at all. Did you know Sly Stallone and Jamie Foxx's daughters are the stars of that?
Yeah, Jamie Foxx went on social media, told everybody, this is my daughter's first movie. You
I
have
think
to
the studio was like, we need your help.
Yeah, he's so proud.
Sure.
But the last one made money, so why wouldn't this one?
Why wouldn't it? Exactly. That's what I'm afraid of. But until we talk about all these gems next week, I'm Jamison.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.